welcome to another episode of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah, and this is a podcast all about crochet, a little bit of knitting, sometimes sewing, and generally living the yarniest life possible in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. Happy January. This is the second episode in 2020, and it's also episode 71. I can't believe we've gotten to that many episodes. We're almost to 8,000 subscribers, and we're also almost to my 3-year podiversary, which will be in April. So exciting. So before we get started with anything, I just want to remind everyone that if you are looking for me anywhere on the interweb, you can find me as the Cozy Cottage Crochet on Instagram. That is where I hang out the most. Everything is cross-posted to Facebook, but I don't hang out there very much. I also am the Cozy Cottage on Ravelry. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, inquiries, anything to say about the podcast specifically, please shoot me an email. That is the best way to verify to make sure that I will see your message and respond, because sometimes those Instagram messages don't work for me. So that is all of the admin. Shall we get started? It has been, I don't feel like I've had a ton of crochet time the last 2 weeks, but I have been working on many more projects than I have previously, because of course I was working on my Gramps cardigan the last time, and it is finished, and I will insert some pictures here. Sewed the buttons on. My husband loves it. He wore it several days in a row, and then of course it warmed up to 80 degrees in Florida. Yes, 80 degrees in January. I don't know what that is. I don't know what temperature it is outside currently, but I turned the air down in here so that I can wear yarn. And ooh, we do have some make-alongs going on. They're all year-long make-alongs for the time being. Everyone who I drew the prize winners in the last episode, all of those people have gotten back to me. So I am going to send those out in the mail. I have not mailed them yet, but they will be mailed by the time you're watching this, because it's Tuesday right now and this episode won't go live until Saturday. Oh, water break. I feel like I'm going to need a lot of that. There's definitely, because it's 80 degrees, something is blooming and I'm allergic to it and I cannot stop sneezing. So if there's weird choppy cuts in this episode, it's because I started sneezing violently in the middle of the episode. And if you hear random noise, my husband is doing yard work outside, and at some point my sister-in-law and their baby is gonna come home, and my brother's gonna come home, and it's just gonna be a party. So I'm gonna try and get this done before everybody gets home, but we'll see. The make-alongs that we are running, first of all, the Wizarding Mal 2020, that is a make-along for socks and sewing project bags that is hosted by myself and Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast, who is a wonderful dear friend, and I love her so much. And the theme for January is Name Your Wizard. And I know that I said I was a little socked out, and I definitely am, but I have done about this much on a sock, which I will show you for January. I definitely don't think I'm going to get, sorry, is that weird? I just bit my nails in the middle of, I have a little, it's like a rough patch, and I'm afraid it's going to catch on all the yarn because it's catching on my skin. I'm going to try not to do that for the rest of the episode. So I'm working on a sock, so definitely join that. You can crochet or knit your socks, and of course the project bags are for sewing. You can have 1 entry per theme. Number 2 is the Year of the Classics 2020. That is to make garments or large accessories like shawls, ponchos, things like that, that are going to actually fit in your wardrobe and that you will actually wear. Sometimes what we like to make is not necessarily what we like to wear, and I am sadly very guilty of that. So this year I am focusing on trying to make things that I will actually wear. And finally, we have the Mission Impossible Mal, and that is to do a project that really challenges you. The project that you look at and you're like, I could never do that. The whip that you started and you were like, this is way too advanced, I can't do it. The project that is so large, like a blanket or a sweater that you've never made before, you're like, this project is insurmountable. Yes, this make-along is for you. So there are no limits on how big the project has to be. It just has to be super challenging to you. So if you've never knit a pair of socks and you want to knit a pair of socks, that is your Mission Impossible Mal. I have a fingering weight knit sweater that I will be starting, not immediately because I'm a little bit over knitting right now with all the knitting I did for the Gramps cardigan. But that will be my project for the Mission Impossible Mal, along with potentially a drops pattern design, which those patterns are always awful. So that will be impossible. And a cardigan, which I've never, actually it's a sweater that I have in mind, which you will see. I'm not going to spoil it. It'll be in several episodes, probably this summer, that it's made as a sweater, and I think I'm going to steek it. It's crochet, and I'm going to steek it and make it into a cardigan. We shall see. So those are the make-alongs. And in case it's cold where you are, you might notice that I am very bundled up and choking. On air? On what? I don't know. There's nothing in here. This is my winter hold shawl. It is a pattern made with bulky weight yarn. So I made this out of Red Heart Soft Bulky. So it's like pretty inexpensive. And it is named after Winterhold, which is a town in Skyrim, which is my favorite video game of all time. Because literally this town, if you are not bundled up properly, your health will go down. So I made a very, very cozy, squishy, giant shawl that I'm very happy with. And it's January, and I know it's a little warm here, but it's cold inside my house, and I'm gonna wear it. But if you're freezing somewhere and you have some bulky yarn on hand, I highly recommend this. And I will leave a link to the pattern directly down below. Are you ready to talk about finished objects? Because I have some. I know, other than that cardigan, I have been working on like nothing, but I actually have a finished object this week. And I'm gonna start with the tiny ones, and then the big one I will show you in a moment. So I wanted to make some, I'm trying to cut down on the number of things that I buy or things that I use that are only one-use items. So I go through a lot of those cotton pads recently. Side note, recently my hormones, now that I'm 30, have decided to give me acne again for the first time in years. And I understand if you have never had, like if acne has always been a part of your life, that you're probably like, yeah, whatever, you're fine. But I have had, I had plenty of acne when I was a teenager and into college, but then I had like 6 years of clear skin, and all of a sudden they're just popping out everywhere, and I can't deal. So I've changed up my skincare routine, and I have a different face wash now, and I'm using a toner now, and it's all very complicated. But I've been going through a lot of those cotton pads, little circles, and I don't really want to do that. I don't want to contribute to that waste. So I was like, I crochet, and I have cotton yarn in my stash. I think I can make some of these myself, and make them I have. So I have made a bunch. This is cotton yarn that I had in my stash. So I made some in these colors, and then I got some Happy Mail, which I'll show you the rest of later, but there were 3 balls of this Lily Sugar and Cream in the colorway Moon Dance. And so I actually made like 9. And you can get 9 of these out of 1 ball, because I have this much left, and this is definitely not enough for 1. I'm gonna toss all of those over there. Hopefully that didn't make a giant noise on the camera, because I just hit the tripod. And show you what I have made. So I have made 20 of these. Now I will say that these kind of, working with cotton yarn always hurts my hand, it hurts my elbow. So I've been trying to do like a couple a day, or at least do one, do something else for a while and come back. These are the first ones that I made. This is 7 of them. So these have already been washed. I haven't actually used them yet because I just washed them yesterday. So you can just see. They're just little circles. So there's no pattern for these. I tried to use a pattern for a puff. It's like a little puff face pad, but this cotton does not work for that pattern because it's just too sturdy and too rough almost. Whereas I think I need like a thinner, softer, kinder, gentler cotton to make that pattern, which I will probably do in the future. So basically what I did is I just did a magic circle, did 12 double crochets in the circle, then slip stitch to join, then I increased at each one, so now I have 24 double crochets, and then I, on the last round, did increase 2 stitches in one, and then 1 stitch all the way around. And so I made a circle. So I have all of these in different colors, even a cream one. Obviously I like the pink ones. So those are the first 7 I finished. And then I have a whole stack that have not been washed yet. So there's 9 of these. You can see, I really like these. After I made the first one, I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna use this whole ball. And then I have another orange one and a pink one. So that is, does that count as 20 finished objects? I wanted to make a lot so that I don't have to do laundry all the time. I'm thinking actually of making a few more, but we'll see. I'm kind of tired of them. I'm tired of making circles. So this is my stack of face scrubbies. So exciting, and I'm gonna use one for the first time tonight and put the rest in the wash. So those are finished objects, number 1. I do have a much larger finished object. I was living in this beautiful bag that Claudia of Crochet Luna, and of course it has her pin on it that says nobody puts crochet in a corner, and I love this bag because it's the perfect size for a shawl or like a 3-skein project, but also because it has a really sturdy handle and a zipper. And I know some people feel very strongly about zippers in project bags, but I don't care if there's a zipper or not, except for when I'm going out. If I'm leaving my house with my yarn, unless it's a sock, I really want there to be a zipper because I don't want anything to escape. I don't want there to be a runaway ball of yarn, a hook, anything like that. So in this was housed my Just Feel Better shawl, which is a free pattern by Kalisha of the Quirky Monday Craftcast. And I was fading it with 3 yarns, and this is how much I have left of each. So this is the first yarn. This is the colorway Middle Earth from Acorn Willows. I love this. I love the way it smells. It's so soft. I wanted to use as much as possible of all of these yarns. So that was color number 1. Color number 2 was Yarn Crazy Obsessions in the colorway Professor Slughorn, which, as you can see, is kind of the green and pink. And then that's all I have left, just a little guy. And then color number 3 was Yarn on the Prairie, and it is a one-of-a-kind colorway, and this is all I had left of that. Maybe just a tiny bit more than the middle one, but I didn't think I had enough to do 2 full rows, which is what I would have needed. So I bound it off. So I used almost every scrap of yarn. Are you ready to see this? I'm so excited that it's done. It's huge. So this is where I started. You can see with the green, and then right about here is where I started fading in the green and pink, and you can clearly kind of see those stripes as they go in. I think I did 4 stripes of each one, or I do 2 rows of each color, and then I did that 4 times. And then in the middle, we have, of course, the green and pink. This is all that middle color. And then here, I didn't really gauge how much yarn I had left on the second color, so I ended up doing like 6 stripes or 6 repeats of 2 stripes per color because I wanted to use all of the yarn. And then finally here you can see where it's just the last yarn, and it gets bigger. I'm going to take this off and put this one on so you can see it. It gets bigger as you go, so you start here and you're actually working this way. This way. So as you go, you can see that the rows are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they don't fit in the screen anymore, and you are essentially making a humongous triangle. And it was pretty big when I finished it, but it's even bigger now that I blocked it. And this is what it looks like. It's so like subtly springtime. And I definitely am entering this into the year of the classics, even though it's a shawl, because number 1, it's lacy so that I can actually wear it. I was wearing it Monday and it was full on 80 degrees in Florida. And number 2, it's huge, but it's light. So I think probably this weighs maybe 260 grams. And normally something this huge is gonna weigh a little bit more than that, depending on what kind of yarn you use. And I really like that this comes down. My waist is here. So like, my pants line is right here, and it goes below that. So I really like that. And I really like that these tails hang down super low, because I hate it. I hate adjusting my shawls all day. So annoying. Now, of course, you can tie it underneath if you wanted to so that it would never come off. But I feel like with these tails, you don't really need to do that at all. And I just love it. These aren't colors I would normally pick or gravitate towards. I don't really own any green. I own a little bit of olive green. I have like a green pair of khaki pants and then like a green dress, and that's it. And I love pink, of course, but I don't normally gravitate towards this light pink. I feel like pastels generally wash me out. But that is why I put the green first, because I felt like this looks better next to my skin tone, and this kind of fades out and looks really good down here. So I am really thrilled with this. And I'm thrilled with the way I faded it. Now her pattern is written, you can use scraps, you can use any weight of yarn you want. I use fingering weight because that is my favorite weight of yarn, of course. And I had 3 skeins that I thought would go well together. Now the third and the second skeins, like that fade is perfect. You can like barely tell where one ends and the other starts until you get this solid block. The first 2 you can start, but when it's on, I mean, it literally looks like it was made to go this way. So go digging in your stash. If you have some yarn that you, like 3 skeins of yarn that are somewhat in the same color family, you can totally make this shawl. And like I said, it's a free pattern. Kalisha is one of my favorite people. And I think you should make this shawl. It was fun, and it's granny stitch in crochet is one of the very few crochet things that I can do without looking. Now I can knit mostly without looking as long as I'm going in a circle. I can't crochet without looking unless it's granny stitch, which I can just do by feel. And it makes me so happy. So I love it. I really love it. And I have some pictures on Instagram as well. In fact, I'm going to put it up here so that you can look at it for the rest of the podcast. And I'm going to put my super cozy shawl back on. Ooh, I lost my end. Oh, it's super cozy. This actually makes me want to play video games all night, which I cannot do. I have too much to do. That's all for finished objects. I say that's all, like I didn't just finish this whip that has been on my hook for 9 months. 9 months. 9 months, you guys. So excited to have that done. I have not started well, of course I started those face puffs and finished them. I've started 2 other projects that you haven't seen, but I haven't started anything massive. I have several cardigans that I want to make this year that are all in my queue in Ravelry ready to happen, and I just have not had the motivation to start another giant project. And I think I need like a palette cleanser of, first of all, some crochet, because crochet has been sadly lacking in my life, and of course secondly I needed to just finish some stuff. So let's jump in no particular order. The first thing I'm going to show you is this tiny amount of progress on a sock. This is how much I have done in 2 whole weeks. In fact, most of this cuff was already done like 3 weeks ago, so all I have done is the blue part. This is Hobie Yarns Antarctica in the color, I can't see, Polar maybe, I think it says. So that's all I've done. And this is Hobie Yarn Happy Feet, the contrast. I really love, of course blue is my favorite color, so you know I'm gonna love that. But I have only worked on this, I can't remember when I was working on it. Maybe through a meeting or like 1 lunch break or something at work. That's all. That's all the sock progress I have done, because you know what? It's not the year of the sock anymore. Work in progress number 2 is something you have not seen, and it's living in, sorry for the rustling, a giant plastic bag, where the yarn has been living the entire time I've had it. I got this yarn on sale, like super sale, at least 50 or more % off, like so long ago, maybe 2 years ago now. This is Lion Brand Fast Track yarn. It's like a flat ribbon t-shirt yarn, and the colorway is pink convertible. I had 5 of these, and they have been in the giveaway bin for a while, but I haven't been giving them away because they're really heavy, and 5 of them take up a lot of room, and they're 200 and each one's 8 ounces, so that would be 2.5 pounds to mail this as a prize. And I wouldn't want to mail just 1, because what are you gonna do with 1? This yarn has been discontinued. So I have 5 of them, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And finally I was like, oh my gosh, I should make a little rug to go by the side of my bed. So I did. I held the yarn double, and I had half a rug. In fact, maybe 2/3 of a rug. Maybe it's gonna get to like here. So this is 2 full balls of the Fast Track yarn. I used, again, no pattern. I used a 9mm hook, holding the yarn double, I probably could have gone with a 10mm hook, except I don't own one. So I couldn't go with a 10mm hook. And I chained, I don't know how many, this many. Let me count really fast. 32. So I have 32 double crochets, and then literally I just did double crochets all the way across in rows. And this is pretty stiff, but it also has a lot of stretch to it. It's very thick. I am pretty excited about having this rug. I was hoping to have this finished for the podcast, but again, working with this kind of yarn and this kind of hook was super hard on my arm, and it really bothered my elbow a lot. So I need to take it easy, which means doing like 1 or 2 rows on this a day until it gets done, not this whole thing. So I'm thinking it probably needs to be this long. So maybe another ball. And then I'm trying to debate on whether I should add tassels to the end or not. I'm not generally a huge fan of tassels, but I do think they would look cute at the ends, all like fringe on the bottom. Not tassels, fringe, because it would be all the way across the top and the bottom, not on the sides. Because this I measured to fit perfectly on the little area between my bed and the wall. There's only about, I can tell you there's about this much space. There's not very much space at all. And I have hardwood floors, and I just think it would be nice to pop out of bed and step on this first thing in the morning instead of the floor. And also, I have a pink skull stitch marker on here that I made a long time ago, but it has a giant clasp so it can fit in here. And of course I love this because it's hot pink. I love hot pink. So that's a work in progress that you haven't seen. Like I said, no pattern, literally just chain how wide you want it to be and then do some double crochets and hold the yarn double. You can make it out of any yarn, but I do like it out of that t-shirt yarn. I like it very much. The next project update I have for you is the saga of the yarn sausage. The saga of the yarn sausage. Okay, I'll stop singing. You don't have to beg, I'll stop. This is the soft gray cardigan, which is a pattern by Cat Golden. The sleeves are done. As you will know, the last time you saw this, I was complaining. I mean, I have many complaints about this pattern, but I had done something wrong and had to frog a bunch of it. This is what it's supposed to look like at the end. So since my last yarn sausage confession, it has grown 3 or 4 rows. I am using, what size hook is this? A 5mm Tunisian crochet hook, and I always get a question on this, so I just want to go ahead and say it. I am using the Denise interchangeable Tunisian crochet hooks. I love them. They make my Tunisian crochet life the best. Here you go. This is your yarn sausage view. You will notice that it's a little bit fatter than it was last time, but still very much a yarn sausage, completely rolled up on itself. And this is how much I have done. From this stitch marker to here, what is that? 4 rows? So, you know, it's going in the podcast. If I even do a stitch on it, it's going in the podcast. This is the body of the sweater. It's worked bottom up, back and forth. And there's really no way to show you what it looks like because it keeps rolling unless I unroll it like this. So the fabric it creates is beautiful. It's very, very thick. By the time this is done, I will not be able to wear it. Certainly not in Florida. But maybe I will do like, try to do 1 row a day or something. It'll get done at on 1 row a day because those rows are massive. They take me like 20 minutes and it's worsted weight yarn. So eventually we'll get to the measurement, right? The yarn sausage has grown 3 rows. That's all I have to say about it because you've already heard me complain extensively about the pattern and the yarn. I had complaints about the yarn because there was knots, and I just have complaints in general, but the yarn demands to be that sweater. So it must be. You can't argue with the yarn. I have 2 more. One of them you have seen, one of them you have not. Is living in my very favorite bag. I think this is probably my favorite bag. Certainly, I reach for it constantly. It's just the perfect size and the perfect weight. And it has two of my very favorite pins of all time. This one says Happiness is Crochet, which of course came from Crochet Luna. And this was a gift from a podcast viewer. Let's see if I can, aha. And I believe she got it from Expression Fiber Arts, I'm pretty sure. And in here is the most amazing yarn and also a Tunisian project. So I am using a 4mm Tunisian crochet Denise interchangeable hook. And as you can see, this is a really, really short cable and stopper because I'm making a tiny project. Not tiny, but not huge width-wise. So when you saw this last time, I had this much done, which we've already talked about how amazing this yarn is in this stitch, and it just demands to be the stitch. And I really didn't know where I was going. I didn't have a sense of direction. I just knew that this yarn had to be the stitch because it is gorgeous. And I picked it up after I finished my Just Feel Better shawl, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going and see what happens. And now I do have a direction. It looks the same, but I have something in my head where I want this to go. This is where the stitch marker was. That's where I started. So this is almost doubled in size since you saw it. And it is a little bit slow going because Tunisian crochet on a fingering weight is slow going. But I just can't get over the yarn. It's so amazing. I feel like this yarn needs to be next to my face at all times. I'm very excited. Hopefully what I have in my head will come out. And there will be, it's a design in Tunisian crochet, so it doesn't really stretch this way, but it very much stretches this way. So you can even see, hopefully you can see how lacy this is. I just love it. And Attic Spin Dye, this is the Attic Spin Dye yarn in the colorway Vibrant Iris, which is my favorite colorway that they do. And Andy and Angela are such generous and kind, and they've been such supporters of this podcast, and they sent me 2 skeins of this yarn. And so I have just been enjoying every stitch. I'm not really in a hurry to get this done. I took it to work today, and I worked like 4 rows at lunch, and I was like, man, it's just delightful. The colors are delightful. The yarn is delightful. I'm just happy with it all around. So that's how much I have. Not much, but double what I had last time. So it feels good to be making progress on some whips finally, after such a long period of only working on one thing. And by a long period, I literally mean like, what was it, like a month? That's not even that long, but it felt like a long time. And finally, the final whip that I have is living in this amazing space bag, which was a lovely gift from a viewer of this podcast, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is an Erin Lane bag. And I have always heard about Erin Lane bags because she advertises on like a lot of podcasts and things, especially the audio ones, and I've never had one. And now this is the second one I've received recently, and the first one was a used project bag. So one of my yarn wishes was for a gently used project bag that I could give a new lease on life. I didn't want anyone to make me something. I just wanted to, like, if you don't want a bag anymore. And so someone sent me a beautiful blue Erin Lane bag that's like a little skinnier and taller than this. But the person who sent me this, it's like metallic, this fabric. It's so cool looking. And it's white on the inside, so you can see what you're doing. And in here, I have a new design. I know, it's been so long. It's been so long because I haven't had any brain space. And I don't know how long this design is going to take me because, again, brain space. But let's see. The yarn, there's a story because the person who sent me this yarn is Melissa from Yarn on the Prairie. And she offered to provide yarn support for a design. And when she sent it to me, I was like, definitely these 2 colors because they're amazing. But I had something else in my head, and I have been trying to make the math work for a couple of months. And I just cannot make the picture that is in my head come out. And then I had all those problems with Microsoft Word, and I just couldn't, okay? And the holidays, it just was a lot. So this past week, I had a little bit of time on Saturday, a few days ago, and I sat down and I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to make this work, I'm just going to start crocheting. Now, generally, you can do that for a design if you want to, But the problem is you will do a lot of frogging, and frog I did. But I'm just trying to enjoy creating with my hook and not necessarily going by rules. So normally what I do is I kind of plan out what I'm trying to do and I work at all the numbers and then I crochet along to make sure that they match. And this, I'm literally just crocheting what I want. Like I was increasing at a certain rate at one point and then I started increasing at a different rate at another point, and I'm only like this far in, but I just love it and I don't know where I'm going next. So it will be an adventure for us as well. So this is her colorway Electric Blue. And this is her colorway Voltage, which I love it. I love them both so much. I love bright neon colors. And this is what I have so far. So it's just a little baby. As you can see, we start with kind of a solid panel, and then we have a little bit of lace. Then we have another solid panel, and then we have lace in Voltage. And then I just started doing something else. You know what I really love about this yarn, other than the color, is the stitch definition is fantastic. And it's showing up on screen the way that it looks in real life. Like that is so good to me. And of course you're gonna need to block this because it's lace, but like, that is amazing. It almost has the stitch definition of cotton. I am dying to know, like, not that I want your secrets, Melissa, but I'm dying to know like where you get your yarn to dye, because it's so plump and squishy and I just adore it. And I'm very excited. So I'm gonna do this for a while and then I'm probably gonna do something else and we'll see what happens. The only thing I will say is that I can't really work on it unless I'm at home, because I have to be around my notebook and write everything down. If you do not write everything down, your design will not come out the way you want it to. It simply will not. It is impossible. Literally, I am that person that's like, oh, I'll remember. And then the next day I'm like, what size hook was I using? I have no idea. And because I'm making this up as I go along, like row by row, I have to write down every row. Otherwise, this pattern will never be released and that would be terribly sad. I do want to show you also, I thought the stitch marker was perfect for this project. It's just the most happiest, funnest little bug. And it was sent to me by Claudia. And the minute I started working with this, I was like, definitely have to use this guy. So I'm so excited about this. Like, I feel like it's been a while since I've been this excited to crochet. And just for the pure joy of it, because last year was so crazy and so rough, I was doing a lot of crochet and knitting for self-preservation, not necessarily for just the pure joy of it. And that project, I literally frogged the first section 4 times. That first little piece before I got it the way I wanted it. And then the lace, the little lace panel that was at the very end, that one has been frogged twice. And it doesn't bother me. I'm just so happy to be working on it. And then when I get it, and I'm like, yes, this is what it needs to be, it's just a wonderful feeling. So thank you so much for the yarn support. I will leave a link directly to Yarn on the Prairie below so that you can go support her as well. I think her yarn is fabulous. It's very squishy and plump and adorable. And I'm excited about this design. And as it grows, I will pick a name. Probably something nerdy because you know me. Okay, I have some happy mail to show you. Some happy mail, some things that I purchased. Well, some of you will have seen the vlog. So I went to Distaff Day in Orlando, which is a yarn, it's like the closest thing Florida gets to a yarn festival. It's at a hotel conference center, and basically there was like 10 vendors, something like that. And there was spinning demonstrations, weaving demonstrations, and there was all these tables. And I, with 2 friends, drove to Orlando and then met a couple of lovely listeners, which was fabulous. And I got to meet up with Kalisha of the Quirky Monday Craftcast, and it was so good to see you. So good. I'm so glad you came out, Kalisha. And I got a couple of things. So they had this thing called a free table, where people who had yarn that they weren't going to use or didn't want anymore would come and put it on the table. And I did not know that was happening. Otherwise I would have brought some stuff. But next year I will know. I picked up one thing off the free table. Actually, 2 things. One is this ball of mohair. Just love it. Just a little ball of mohair. I think I'll hold it double with something to make a hat. That's what I picked it up for. And I picked up this off of the free table. This is cone yarn. This is 100% acrylic lace weight gray yarn. And I told this story in the vlog, but when I was picking it up, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is holding it double. This is enough for a sweater. I could get a fingering weight if I hold this double, I think. Maybe even a light fingering. And one of the ladies that was standing there was like, yeah, but it's acrylic. Do you really want it? And I was like, yes. First of all, yes. Second of all, I'm gonna make a lace cardigan, so it won't be that hot. Third of all, what is with the fiber snobbery? Okay, we don't have any time for that here. That is not acceptable on any level. I love working with beautiful, wonderful, natural fibers. And I love working with acrylic. This is acrylic and I wear it. This is wool, and I love them both. They both have their purposes. And some people are really sensitive to wool and can't do it, or are vegan, or have any kind of other restriction where they can't use the animal fibers, or they don't simply have access to it. And this was, of course, originally meant to be used for weaving, maybe on a knitting machine or something like that. But I was so excited. It's very soft. It's not itchy at all. And I think that I'm going to designate this for the, what is it called? The drops. I can't think of what it's called. It's in my Ravelry queue. There's a drops pattern that I want to make at the end of this year. And it's basically lace. I think it's probably lace squares, lace crochet squares that are joined as you go, or maybe you join them afterwards. I'm not sure. I'm sure the pattern will be written horribly, as most drops patterns are, but I think I'm going to earmark this directly for that. And I was so thrilled to be able to get this because I can make that whole cardigan. That cardigan calls for like 2,000 yards of yarn, which is a lot. And now I have 2,000 yards of yarn, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't say how many yards is on here, but definitely enough, I think. And then I made a purchase. I found it very interesting that a lot of the vendors did not have sweater quantities, but I found a sweater quantity. That's what I was going for. And of course I had $60 that I had been hoarding for 6 months from a commission that I did last year. I had $25 of Christmas money. And then the rest of it came from the support of you guys who have purchased my patterns. So you made it possible for me to buy this yarn. I will say this is like my yarn budget for the whole year. And if I did not have the support of all of you buying my patterns, I would not have come home with this. It is definitely going to be the most fabulous thing I have ever owned or worn when it's finished. Right now it's just yarn. It is so soft. I went to it and I came back to it like 3 times and I hemmed and hawed about it for an hour and a half. And I was like, okay, if it's still there, I'm gonna go get it. And it was still there and it was a sign. So I came home with it. A sweater's quantity of 80% merino, 20% silk yarn. This is Emma's yarn, which I have never seen before. I got it from the Four Pearls Yarn Shop booth at the festival. It's the base super silky and it's the colorway Elephant. This is going to be a lace cardigan. I don't know what pattern. I'm going to just keep this for a little while and pet it and love it and squish it and call it George. I'm just gonna keep it for a while until I find the perfect pattern. I may even do like make up my own pattern kind of for the lace cardigan, but I am so thrilled to have this. And I really can't thank you enough because the yarn is lovely. I had the best time. If you came up and said hi to me, you made my day. Hopefully I wasn't too weird. I had a lot of caffeine in the morning and sometimes talking to strangers gives me anxiety. So hopefully I wasn't like a weirdo, but if I was, you know what? That's, you know who I am. You watch this podcast. This is real life. I just had the best time. So the other thing that I purchased was from a Ravelry stash. So I have 3 skeins of this yarn. This is Knit Picks Hawthorne in the colorway Graffiti Speckle, which they do not make anymore. And I have 3 skeins of this yarn, which were gifted to me by Ella of the No Catchy Name podcast quite a while ago, and I've been saving it to make a sweater. And I'm going to make the, I think it's the Chelsea cardigan or the Angela cardigan, one of those by Vicky Chan. but I want to make the cardigan a little bit longer than it's called for in the pattern, and I was really worried I was going to run out of yarn, and that would be terrible. So I went on Ravelry. They don't make this yarn anymore, so I went on Ravelry to see if anyone was selling it in a D-stash, and I emailed like everybody. Only one person got back to me, and I managed to snag a skein of this. The only thing I will say is I'm going to have to reskein this and then wash it because it's bothering my allergies. I don't know if it's like animals or what, but it smells like musty almost. So I think I need to wash it and then go from there. So I'm going to skein it back up. Then I'm going to soak it. Then I'm going to hang it to dry, and then I'm going to re-cake it into a ball. Such a load of work, but totally worth it because the yarn is not made anymore, and I'm very thrilled to have another ball of it so that I can actually make a whole sweater. And I got a few things in the mail, which I'm excited to show you. So the first thing that came in the mail was from a person named Emmy, who is a viewer of this podcast. She is one of my patrons on Patreon, and she has been just like, she makes me laugh with her comments on Patreon like almost every single time. And she just was like, I'm just gonna pop some stuff in the mail for you. And so she's the one who sent me this amazing bag. And also some other goodies. So there is some tea, which is, it says Nectar African, Organic African Nectar. I haven't tried this yet because I put everything in a pile for the podcast, but I'm gonna take this to work tomorrow. And actually I may drink it tonight because it's caffeine free, which is my favorite kind of tea. So very excited to try that. She also made me the best thing. This is called Emmy's Dash of Disdain. Disdainful tea mix, and you add 2 tablespoons to boiling water. The description that she wrote in her card of what that is honestly hysterical. She's hysterical. I just had the best time reading it. And I'm going to see if I can tell you what it is. She said, there's nothing healthy about this tea. Seriously, it's sugary goodness that my gran used to make. It has tang, instant tea, sugar, cinnamon, and cloves. I am so excited. Even my husband, who doesn't like tea, wants to try it. So very excited. And she also sent the funniest card. She just makes me laugh. It says, moments in fiber history, 1 if by llama, 2 if by sheep. And that will mean nothing to you if you're not in the US, but we have this story about Paul Revere, who went riding through the town, and they were supposed to hang a lamp. 1 if the British were coming by land, and 2 if by sea. And then he went running, galloping around, yelling, the British are coming, the British are coming. And then of course there was a big battle. So that is very, very funny. But wait, that's not all. There was this is like a felted donut pouch from Frabjous Fibers. And Frabjous Fibers, I have only ever seen one other thing by them, or like held it in my possession, and it is a skein of yarn that I used to make my very first pattern ever, which is still my most popular pattern and the shawl that I reach for the most out of anything I have made, and it's my Treasure Island shawl. So this is by that same company. It's a donut, and it has a little heart zipper pull, and inside there's a little magnet of the state where she is from. There is this little guy, Alexander Sheepleton. And then there is the key. That's a beautiful little rainbow pin as well. And I just love, I've been dying to use all of this. I couldn't stop myself from using the project bag. So the other thing that she included, which is special to me, but there's an extra reason that it's special to me, was this amazing yarn. And I'm not going to dig the tag out of it. I'm just going to tell you where it's from. It is Alexandra the Art yarn. That is the company. It's called the Agate or Agate Beach colorway. This was a special Pride yarn at Stephen B, which is a very famous yarn store in Minnesota. And I'm gonna get emotional. The reason that this means so much to me is because part of everything that happened last year was that I left my job because they were specifically not inclusive of the LGBT plus community. And so myself and another person are a whole team of people, and really there's 2 people who have helped me more than anything. We are starting a church in St. Petersburg. So if you're new around here, there is an episode where I go through the entire story of how I arrived at this, and I'm not going to get into all of that right now because I will get super emotional, but I will link that episode down below if you want to watch it. It will be at the end of the episode, probably for about 20 minutes of talking. But what I will say is that it is extremely important to me to not just say that you're inclusive, but to actually be inclusive. And I'm thrilled not to be like, oh, we have points, but I'm thrilled to say that there are already members of the LGBT community on our team that are planning the church, and it just brings my heart so much joy to know that they can actually be who they are. They don't have to hide anything. I don't know, I've never experienced what it's like to be afraid to walk down the street holding your partner's hand because I'm straight and I'm married to a guy. So, but I know, I can imagine, and I never want that to be the case in the place that we are starting. And so she sent me a special sparkly pride yarn from Siegmund, and it just made me cry, and it really meant the world to me. And I didn't say that it made me cry in the email that I sent you, Emmy, but that really was meaningful to me. And I don't know if this is possible, but I'm going to try and make something that's one skein that I can actually wear on our opening day. So our first service is actually in less than 3 weeks. It's not terrifying at all. We're having kind of like a soft launch, so that just with our core team members, we will have maybe like 15 to 20 people there. Just so that we can practice, so we don't invite a bunch of people who have been like, the soundboard doesn't work, or like the nursery setup doesn't work at all, or we don't know how to work the coffee maker. We're gonna have a few like practice services. And our official launch is on March 1st. Actually, our soft launch is starting February 2nd. I think I said February 1st. We're starting Super Bowl Sunday, but our official launch, where everybody is invited, is on March 1st. So that is just a little over a month from now. I feel like I'm panicking and I'm a little overwhelmed, but what I will say is that it's been worth it so far, and I think it will continue to be worth it. I changed my whole life for this because I believe in it that much. I believe in inclusion that much. I believe in creating a space where people can explore faith and have community with each other without being told that they're wrong. So we're inclusive in every aspect, and it really meant a lot to me. I know I keep saying that, but it really did. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart, Amy. That was very sweet of you. And thank you for being my patron. Before I go on to the next thing, I do want to kind of just give an update. So that is the update, is that our services are starting very soon. And if you're not interested in this, you can totally skip ahead. But I know that some of you are very interested in what we're doing. So we do have a Different Church podcast. That's what it's called, The Different Church. Because we don't think the world needs another church. We think the world needs a different kind of church where everybody is actually welcome. So there's a podcast that I can link to our website down below. It's an audio podcast. It's not video, but it is me talking. So if you want more of that, it's definitely not about yarn. It's about faith. So don't say I didn't warn you. But some of you have reached out to me and said, how can I help? Is there anything that I can do? And the answer is yes. We are launching very soon, and we are a very, very small operation. Nobody's getting paid for this. There's no salaries. I wrote a check for our rent this past week, and I was like, ooh, and our liability insurance. Man, running business is hard. But thankfully, we've had some wonderful support along the way to make that possible. I do want to announce our location, where if you're in St. Petersburg, we're going to be at the St. Pete Opera Company, which is exactly where we want to be. They've been nothing but wonderful for us, and I am so thrilled to be part of that community. But some of you have said, what can I do to help? Well, there's a give button on our website, but more specifically, we have an Amazon wish list of things that we need, before we open our doors to the public. And they're literally in every price range. There's stuff on there like hand soap that we're gonna need. There's stuff like coffee cups, tea is close to my heart, you know. There's some tech supplies, there's some office supplies, there's kids supplies because we're gonna have a nursery. So there's little foam tile mats that we're gonna put on the floor, some baby blankets for the children. There's like kid fencing that we'll need to kind of separate, because right now there's just one big room where the children are gonna be, and that's why we're only doing it up to 5 years old right now. So, but we do wanna separate the kids that are walking from the non-walking children. So there's literally stuff on there like, we want to buy a giant box of tampons so that we can put some in the bathroom, in the women's bathroom, because as a woman, that is valuable to me to have something in case, you know? So there's literally all kinds of things. And if you have it in your heart that you want to help, you can click on that link, and that would help us more than anything, because those are the specific items that you need. And one of our core values is financial transparency. And that's why it's on an Amazon list. We're not saying send us money so that we can then go buy these things. We're like, here it is. If you can support that, then we'll love you forever either way. And honestly, some people have really surprised me with how they've supported us so far. And maybe I'm just a little cynical, but people have just been kind of coming out and coming up and just saying, how can I help you? And it just, I can't do this. It just makes everything that much more special. And just know that if you've contacted me in any way with a support, I really value your contribution, and I'm really, really grateful. So that is all. That is all that I will talk about with the church. I'll just leave a link to that list down below. And if you want to support the podcast in general, many of you know I had a significant job change last year when I left over that situation. And so now I work at a law firm, which pays the bills, and that is literally it. That's all it does. It does not make room for any extra. So if you want to support the podcast, you can give us a like. You can hit subscribe down below. I do have, of course, mini crochet patterns that are linked directly down below. And those proceeds go directly back into the podcast. So it'd be things like purchasing yarn, like you saw, mailing out the prizes. I'm mailing out a bunch of prizes last week. That is all, thankfully. So thankful that you guys have supported me so that I can give everything back to you. And then I do have a Patreon page for this podcast as well. And you will get more henna content. So there's all kinds of tiers. The lowest one is to only $2 a month. And for that, you will get a love letter from me every single week on a Sunday. So it'll either be text or video based. I just did a video based one last time. And some of the other tiers have vlogging. I have been so enjoying vlogging over on Patreon recently. I'm trying to get better at vlogging. So mostly I'm like, oh gosh, I should have recorded that before I ate the entire cheeseburger. I'm getting better. So yeah, those are all the ways you can support the podcast. And I have one more thing to show you. And it's some happy mail that came in the mail from a lovely viewer of this podcast named Arlene. She said she had some yarn that she wasn't going to use. Could I possibly take it, use it, and if I don't want to use it, pass it along for prizes? And absolutely, I can do that. So she sent me way more than I thought she was going to. There's 3 slipper kits, which come with yarn and a crochet hook. I think these are going to be such fun prizes. I think this is going to be the first quarter prizes for the Wizarding Mal, because you've been making socks. Now you can make crochet slippers. She also sent a bunch of knitting needles, including these giant ones. 7 balls of this Red Heart with Love fruit punch yarn. It's a worsted weight, I think. I'm kind of obsessed with this yarn. I think this would make the most fun baby blanket, and I don't know anyone who's pregnant. But I think I'm actually going to keep this yarn and make a baby blanket out of it just whenever I get around to it, so that I can have one on hand to give away, because it is so cheerful and so festive. I love it. I love it. Love that yarn. Also, the blue and purple and white cotton yarn that I made some face scrubbies out of came from Arlene. And then she sent, oh, there's 4 kits. I thought there was only 3. There's 4 kits of crochet slippers. Some cowboy print or cowgirl fabric. some delightful tea, which I shall very shortly be drinking. And then these are what she originally contacted me about for prizes. Yarn cakes. And you can definitely see that there's 4 of one color. Those will be one single prize together so that whoever gets them can hopefully make a sweater out of them. So very excited about that because, let me see, these are Karen cakes. This is the colorway Blueberry Parfait. And you get 383 yards per one. So that's almost 1,600 yards. So as long as you're not making a super long sweater, you should be able to get a sweater out of that. So thank you so much, Arlene, for your support of the podcast. It's so exciting. I'm really dying to make that baby blanket, even though I have nobody to give it to because nobody is pregnant. What am I gonna do about that? Anyways, as I said before, if you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. And hit the subscribe button if you want to be kept up to date on future videos as they come live on this channel. I podcast once every 2 weeks and they go up on Saturday mornings at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to go get this edited. It is only 6:30 right now, but I feel like it's 8:30 and I'm literally so hungry. So hungry. And I have to do some yoga because my back is killing me and I'm just trying to be a little bit better of a person to myself and do a little bit of yoga and eat a little bit better. So, wish me luck with that. It's not a New Year's resolution. It's literally my body is complaining like every second of the day and I need to listen. I should have listened months ago, but everything has been out of control. Anyways, I'm gonna stop. Leave me a comment below. Tell me what you're working on. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of this community. And until I see you again, happy crafting. Be kind to yourself. If you wouldn't say it to your best friend or to your partner, don't say it to yourself. And I will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye, friends.